Alright everybody, welcome back. I saw it, you saw it, we all saw what Tony Allen said about LeBron James. Tony Allen recently pushed back on LeBron, saying that his belief that he deserved the 2013 Defensive Player of the Year award is false. Tony Allen argued that LeBron's defensive reputation is exaggerated, saying that LeBron's signature defensive plays were chase down blocks and questioning whoever truly believed that LeBron locked up someone in order to win games. And because of that, these comments have sparked up one of basketball's oldest debates, right? How good was LeBron James defensively? Was he one of the greatest defenders ever, or was he overrated? Or is he somewhere in between? And so today, we're breaking down LeBron's defense year by year, comparing him with the best defenders of his generation, and answering where he truly ranks historically. And so, Tony Allen is not completely wrong, but he's also missing the bigger picture. Let's start with something important, right? Tony Allen is qualified to criticize almost anyone defensively. This is someone that Kobe Bryant called one of the toughest defenders he's ever had to face. Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Steph Curry, and numerous stars have praised him over the years. Tony Allen's entire career was built around making life miserable for the league's elite scorers. So when Tony talks about defense, people should listen. But here's where I think his criticism becomes too narrow. Tony Allen is evaluating defense almost exclusively through one-on-one assignments. Can you guard Kobe? Can you guard KD? Can you guard Melo? Can you erase the opposing star? That is how Tony Allen measured greatness, because that was his role. LeBron's defensive value was not built the same way. And so with that being said, LeBron was never just a lockdown wing. LeBron's greatest defensive strength wasn't shutting down one player for 48 minutes a game. It was doing everything. At his athletic peak, he could guard point guards, shooting guards, wings, power forwards, even some centers, depending on the small ball lineup. And that is incredibly rare. In Miami, Eric Spoelstra weaponized LeBron like a defensive chess piece. You need someone to switch on to Derrick Rose? You have LeBron. You need someone to battle with Paul Pierce? You got LeBron. You need someone to guard Tim Duncan for stretches? You got LeBron. You need him protecting the rim from the weak side? You have LeBron. His versatility was almost unmatched, and that is why so many coaches love building elite defenses around one LeBron James. And so I'd say 2009 to 2014 was LeBron's defensive peak. So through those years, LeBron wasn't just good. He was absolutely terrifying. He had a combination of speed, strength, anticipation, cue, and recovery ability. It made him one of basketball's most versatile defenders. During this time, this was the era of chase down blocks, passing lane steals, weak side rotations, switching every screen, and defending all 5 positions. People remember the chase down blocks because they were spectacular. Tony Allen almost dismissed them. But here's the thing, right? Those weren't gimmicks. Those blocks routinely erased guaranteed points. A chase down block is essentially a forced turnover. That's elite defensive impact. And so when you're talking about a 2013 Defensive Player of the Year debate, this is one of the most debatable ones in my opinion. So, LeBron finished second in Defensive Player of the Year voting in 2013. Marc Gasol won, right? Many players, many analysts, many fans still believe LeBron deserved it. And the reason why is because LeBron defended every position. Miami finished among the league's best defenses. He finished second in steals, blocked over a shot a game, anchored countless switching positions. And he could completely change a playoff series just with his versatility defensively. Marc Gasol, however, anchored arguably the NBA's best overall defense as Memphis' backline communicator and rim protector, and voters rewarded him for that fact. And so this is really a philosophical debate, right? Do you value an elite rim protector, or do you value versatility? There isn't an objectively correct answer. So in my opinion, if you asking me, did LeBron actually deserve the 2013 Defensive Player of the Year award over Marc Gasol? I would say yes, and the reason is why, because Marc Gasol was phenomenal that season. He anchored Memphis Grizzlies defense, quarterbacked every rotation, protected the rim, and transformed Memphis into one of the NBA's toughest defensive teams. There is no denying that. But when I look at who had the greater overall defensive impact, I lean towards LeBron James. LeBron wasn't just guarding one position. He was really out there guarding all five. One possession, he'd switch on to Chris Paul, and then the next, he'd be battling David West in the post. Then he'd rotate over to block a center at the rim. There wasn't another player in basketball who could impact every area of the floor the way LeBron could. Miami's defensive system was built around his versatility. He erased mistakes. He trapped pick and rolls. He jumped the passing lanes. He protected the rim as a weak side helper. He defended the opposing team's best player regardless of position. And that level of versatility had never really been seen from a player his size. And here's another interesting point, right? Because Marc Gasol won Defensive Player of the Year, and yet he was not first team all defense. This should be a crime. He was voted onto the second team while LeBron made the first team. Think about that for a second. The media voted Gasol as the league's Defensive Player of the Year. The coaches who selected the all defensive teams at the time didn't even think he was the best defensive center. That contradiction has followed the award for years. It shows just how split the people were on who deserved the award, right? When you combine LeBron's defensive versatility with the fact that he was also averaging over 26 points while shooting 56% from the field and carrying one of the greatest teams of the modern era, it's hard not to appreciate just how much responsibility that he handled every night. And so could Marc Gasol have won? Absolutely he could have won. He had a championship caliber defensive season. But if I had a vote, I'm giving it to LeBron James, because in 2013, he wasn't just the most versatile defender in basketball. He was the most impactful defender in basketball. And had he won that award, I don't think anyone would be arguing today that it was undeserved. And so with that being said, where do I rank LeBron? Where do you rank LeBron among all-time, not all time, let's do among his era defenders, right? So let's compare him to his peers first. I would say in LeBron's era, the highest defensive peaks would be coming from guys like Dwight Howard, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan. Those three guys controlled entire defenses. They were true defensive systems by themselves. I would also put Draymond Green, hear me out, I would also put Draymond Green slightly ahead because his communication, versatility, and sustained defensive impact defined multiple championships, right? And so I would compare LeBron to guys like Kawhi Leonard, Scottie Pippen historically, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ben Wallace in terms of overall impact, though each of them got there differently. Kawhi was a better pure perimeter stopper than LeBron James. Giannis has been the better rim helper than LeBron James. LeBron was the better all-around switchable defender, right? Different strengths. They all had different strengths. Better on-ball defenders, right? The Tony Allens, the Kawhi Leonards, Bruce Bowens, the Ron Artest. Those guys were simply nastier one-on-one. If your only question is who do I want guarding Kobe for one possession, I'm not taking LeBron. I'm probably taking guys like Tony Allen or guys like a Gary Payton, right? One-on-one stoppers. But at the same time, where Tony Allen's criticism has some merit is that Tony Allen, he didn't criticize peak Miami LeBron, right? He's criticizing LeBron's overall defensive reputation. And to be honest, there is some truth in what he's saying. Beginning around his second Cleveland stint, LeBron coasted more during the regular season. He conserved energy, he picked his spots. Sometimes possessions ended with him standing off ball. There were some stretches where his defensive effort simply wasn't consistent, right? Because he carried such an enormous offensive load. That criticism is fair. But the problem is that many people now judge LeBron's defense based on how those later years and forget just how dominant he was in his prime. There's also the intangibles. What doesn't show up on the box score, right? Defense isn't just steals and blocks. It's communication, rotation, helping the helper, calling out the action, switching correctly, understanding opponent tendencies, right? We all know the famous story of DeMar DeRozan, right, and LeBron James. Well, LeBron was calling out Toronto plays before they even set them. LeBron might have one of the highest basketball IQs ever. By his Miami years, he could anticipate offensive actions before they developed. That kind of processing speed doesn't always show up in the box score, but the coaches notice it immediately. Among all players of his era, I'd place LeBron somewhere between 8th and 12th as a defender, behind players like Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Dwight Howard, Draymond Green, Tony Allen, Kawhi Leonard, but right there with elite names such as Giannis and Artest, depending on how much you value versatility versus specialized roles. And that's still incredibly impressive considering LeBron also has a strong case as the greatest offensive engine of his generation. And so Tony Allen is absolutely right about one thing. Nobody feared LeBron the way they feared Tony Allen as a pure perimeter scorer. But basketball defense isn't only about locking up one superstar. It's about helping your teammates, the switching, the protecting the rim, the reading the offense, creating the turnovers, and making an entire defense function. LeBron may not have been the greatest one-on-one defender of his generation, but during his peak, he was unquestionably one of the most complete and versatile defenders the NBA had ever seen. And that's why this debate continues more than a decade later.